Hello, my name is Mike, and well, I'm not working on a bike today. Instead, I'm going to be working on the yard Art Cougar. Yeah, it's back by popular demand. I was just going to swap cars and, trade the Rusty Grenade with the yard Art Cougar. But when I went out to get the yard Art Cougar, well, it had a flat tire from sitting so long. That's what yard art does, it just sits. And of course, when I went to pull the tire off to repair it and get air in it and rebeat it, well, of course, I stripped out one of the studs. Yeah. So at that rate, I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot fixed on this project car today. So in addition to packing the wheel bearings like I'd planned to do, well, I'm going to be fixing a wheel stud. I also want to get to the inside of the car because, well, one of the gauges, the fuel gauge, is sticking a little bit, and it's just kind of stuck because the dash is warped. See, this car sat out in the Arizona sun for 20 years or so and pretty much melted everything plastic inside the car. And that's going to be a challenge. I did get some new panels. I want to take the raggedy seats out, and I have the stock seats. I'm going to get some covers for them and put them back in and just get some stuff fixed on it. My headlights don't even work because, well, there's a vacuum leak in the dash. And on these cars, if you don't have engine vacuum, you can't flip up the fold-away headlights. Could be a problem, right? So we're going to address a bunch of that stuff in this episode. Now, I know some of you are saying, Mike, the reason that you had a flat tire is because you keep doing burnouts. No, I only did the one burnout for the video. That was it. I'm not that rich. I can't afford to burn through tires like some of these other YouTuber dudes. I'm not even monetized yet. Anyway, it just debeaded from sitting. I'll break the bead down, clean the rim up. It'll probably hold air just fine. That sounds like famous last words. Anyway, if you want to find out if I can make that tire hold air and see if I can fix some of the other stuff without breaking something else, stick around.
Somewhere in a dusty, dirty back alley in western Arizona, not far from historic Route 66, is an old fart trying to cram a square peg into a round hole. He'll work on anything, just as long as it's got at least 2 cool wheels.
So, threads are a little buggered. Cleaned them up a little bit with a thread file. And even though it was the wrong thread file, cleaned them up enough. Yeah, it was a metric thread file. It's enough to get it where the lug nut just easily spins on. Now the question is, can I clean up the threads in the lug nut as well? That might be a bit of a challenge. Here's the lug nut. Took out a couple layers there. Hopefully I can get in there and clean them out just enough where the threads will grab. We'll find out. Just try to get the threads to engage. I don't know if they're on there right or if they're cross threading. Get a little more. There it goes.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank goodness. Alright. Crisis averted. Well, me does not seem to be leaking anymore. I marked the spot with an arrow. Not seeing any bubblage. I guess this time it's seeded. Well, another crisis averted. Things are looking my way for a change.
Alright, I'm getting ready to go ahead and do the wheel bearings, but then it occurred to me that, well, to do it the best way possible, I need to use the old fart method, which involves the use of this. Yeah, my back hurts pretty much all the time. Let me bring it down just a bit. Oh yeah, that's much better. Okay. And yes, the Cougar came from the factory with disc brakes at a time when, I don't know if they were optional or standard, but most cars, they weren't even an option. So, kind of cool to see. There's actually a brake line going from the inner caliper piston out to the outer caliper piston. Little different than what we're used to these days. Now, there's something I really didn't expect to see. So you guys can see it there. You've got the bolts that hold the caliper on aircraft wired. That's a little different. It's not that big a deal. It just means having a cut and stuff wires through the holes once the bolts are back in. We can do it. Look at that. 4 piston calipers. Like, you know, all the expensive high-end stuff. At least in that era. Well, they don't look terrible. See if we can get them in focus a little better here. Nice and smooth and shiny, and there's not a lot of play in them. So I'm not sure what the grinding was I was experiencing driving, and it might have just been the rotor rubbing against the brake pads. I was hearing something, and these look good. We're going to take a look at the other side, and if they look fine, we'll repack them with fresh grease. I've got to run down to the auto parts store and get some seals for it. You know, for 20 some odd, at least 25-year-old grease, it looks pretty darn good. So I'm happy with that. Somebody has actually been maintaining the car prior to it sitting. this one had water in it. This might be my culprit because there's even rust on the little cotter pin holder thing. If you look at the grease, it's like all dried out and stuff. You can see there's been moisture in there. Okay. They're terrible, but they definitely had far less grease in them than the passenger side. And there's definitely some water in here too. Still water in there. This is not what we want. Okay. Look at this kind of brown stuff. It's brown. It's not. It's weird. It's like grease mixed with rust. Very bizarre. And it's a different seal than on the other side. So I'm thinking that side got serviced and this side didn't for some weird reason. Why would you pack bearings on one wheel and not the other? People do weird stuff. But this is why we're thorough and we check everything. So these two rollers right here, hopefully the camera can focus, have indentations in them. There's chips out of them or something. They're not good. And that's what my noise was. They're grinding against stuff. I don't know if any of the other rollers are that way, but we're going to need to put a set of bearings in this one. And maybe that's what happened. The right side may have failed first. Made a lot of grinding noise and locked up. They put bearings in it and didn't even bother to check these. I don't know. She's getting bearings though. I'm putting these back in. Now the question is, did the race survive? You know, we'll head on down to the auto parts store, get some bearings. They come with races, so if I have to swap the race out, I can. Just see how it looks. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. The race is toast also. You can see it's all scored up. So we'll get some bearings and some races in her and put her back together. Off to the auto parts store I go. Well, it's the next day, and since I had to go to the auto parts store to get, the bearings and seals, I also had them order a heater core. Yeah, everybody's favoriteest job, where you get to, contort yourself and crawl into the dash and kind of rip your body open while you're all twisted up, and they're fun. No, they suck. And it seems every car I buy needs a heater core. But it's got to get done. So we'll get the wheels put back together, and then we'll get inside this messed up interior and see what we can do with it. Oh yeah. All right. So to get the race out, in most cases, let's get into the camera here. So to get the race out, in most cases, there's a little cutaway area where you can get a drift in there at the back edge of that race and knock it loose. You look at this one, see if it's as bad as the other one. Can't see nothing. Just so obscured. Oh yeah, this one's torn up too. It's pretty scored. So it's definitely got some impressions in it. Oh wow, deep gouges. Look at that. just bring the whole roll with me. It's kind of like when you have diarrhea, you know, you bring the whole roll with you. This grease isn't much better than diarrhea, believe me. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before. These wheel bearing packers work really well. They're easier to use than trying to use your hand to cram it in there, and you can pack 2 bearings at once. And but the key is, when you're using this tool, you've got to make absolutely certain, bearings in here, you've got to make absolutely certain that you make the sound. Otherwise, the grease won't be evenly distributed. Alright, here we go. Yeah, look at that grease ooze, baby. Come on, ooze. See, I wasn't doing the sound right, I think. Hold still. It'll bring that greased. I don't need it anymore. Oh yeah, we're gooey, greasy and gooey. Now all we have left is our aircraft landing gear brakes. just took her for a short trip. No more grinding noise coming from the front end. And my aircraft brake calipers didn't fall off going down the road. So the wire I put on must be proper. Anyway, now we'll move on to the interior of this thing. And if you think the exterior looks bad, wait till you see the interior. Yeah, she's a little rough. The seats, somebody put some red bucket seats in it. Not really sure what they're out of. But as you can see, that not only is the upholstery of the seat completely disintegrated, so are the cheap seat covers that were placed over it. They're completely disintegrated, and because they're made out of this foam stuff, well, it like turns to dust and crumbles, and it's everywhere. The carpet, as you can see, is in equally poor condition, as are the dash trim panels. Yeah. Oh. Now, I do have a set of these trim panels I got online. I haven't put them in yet. Stuff just blisters up and it's crunchy. Now, I mentioned something about one of my gauges, and that is the fuel gauge. And if you look closely at the gauge, I don't know if you can really see it, the needle is against that backing. So the needle doesn't move. Now, the needle will move if I kind of tap on the dash. So I need to take that gauge apart and see if I can get a little distance between the needle and the gauge. None of my AC controls work, and that's because, well, I don't have any vacuum coming into the dash. There's a vacuum leak in there, which goes to my AC control selector here, and also goes to my headlight switch for causing those foldaway lights to flip up. So that's something I have to address. The dash pad, well, it's turned into this bulgy, crunchy stuff. It's amazing what 20 years of 9,000 degree heat does to plastic and vinyl. But the gauges do work. The oil gauge works. The temp gauge works. I also have some wires hanging here. There's a small overhead indicator console that goes up here. I've got that part, but I haven't put it in or tried to hook it up yet because, well, it seems to be missing a headliner, in case you hadn't noticed. So that needs to be addressed as well. Now, the heater core has been disconnected. I'm going to assume it leaks. I'm not going to even bother to hook it up. And I also noticed that on the AC controls that the fan doesn't come on, which it should do regardless of no vacuum being present. So that heater case has got to come out. So basically, the seats have to come out, and the carpet's got to come out, and the dash has got to come out, and the headliner's got to come out, and the gauges and the AC condenser evaporator case has to come out. Basically, it needs everything. I don't know where to start. here's where we're at on this thing. Oh, that's interesting. Look, the seats are actually out of another Cougar. Probably a different year. We got the kitty cat on them. Here's where we're at on this thing. That dash pad was a pain to get out. In Arizona, in the dry southwestern states, we don't get the rust. This car is absolutely rust-free. But instead, everything else bakes. And getting trim components apart sometimes, so they just crumble and shatter. And even though the dash pad was warped and shattered, I couldn't hardly get it out. It was stuck to the metal. So we tore into it enough I can now see stuff. I can see the cables and the vacuum hoses and the heater case. We're going to do that in a different episode. We're going to end this episode here because, well, I'm running out of time. I like to keep my videos down to about half an hour. It needs carpet, it needs a headliner, it needs a dash pad. I've got some trim panels. But all that stuff costs money, and so I don't have new ones. So what we're going to focus on in the next episode is we'll get the heater core in it, we'll get the fan working, and hopefully find the vacuum leak, and then I'll start trying to source some of the dash parts and the carpet and all that stuff. So this being the end of the episode, I'm going to say what I always say, like, subscribe, share, and come on back for the next episode when we go ahead and try to get the heater core in this. I can just tell it's not going to be fun. Thanks for watching.